Why am I telling this story? Because in life, you have to start with the big rocks, with the big things. If you start filling a jar with the sand or little pebbles, you'll never be able to put the big rocks in it, because there won't be room anymore. So that's why in your life, being private, personal, or your own professional life, start with the big rocks. But it's true, making the decision to take a job that is at a lower level. I had a salary cut, didn't have a company car anymore, I didn't have a team anymore. Was a hard decision, but I also felt I was going to acquire new skills. It was going to differentiate me from other people. Because very few people have done both the innovative side of medicine and the generic sides. You often stay with one of the two. And I just thought, why not? This is another set of skills that I will be able to leverage. So do I want to become a CEO? I'm not sure. And what is interesting, when I mentor people, I always ask them, think about what you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years and then go backwards and think about the set of experiences you need to gain to get there.
Welcome everyone. I would like to thank you for listening Pharma Minds. For this episode, I am with Sandrine Piret-Gerard, US head at Gilead. She's the woman from Belgium in her mid-40s, and I can assure you she's a woman who does impressive things. Today, she heads up an 18 billion business in the US with 1,200 people. She's an engineer, worked at Novartis for 90 years in 4 countries in general medicine, specialty care, generics, and now she's at Gilead on an innovative molecules on HIV, hepatitis, and oncology. Hello, Sandrine.
Hello, how are you, Nathalie? And thank you for doing this in English. We are both French speakers. That's a bit strange, but since I did most of my career in English, I thought this would be a good opportunity for your podcast to be exported beyond France. So let's try. Very happy to be here with you.
Yes, and it makes sense for you. And yes, I know you're on vacation, back to your native home. Then maybe before we get started, you'd like to say some words in French to your French-speaking friends.
Yes. So, merci de m'accorder cette interview en français et en anglais. Ce sera une première pour vous et pour moi aussi. Donc, de retour en Belgique pour 2 semaines, pour reconnecter avec les amis et la famille. Ça fait toujours du bien quand on est expatrié à l'étranger depuis une 20aine d'années, de se reconnecter à nos racines et de passer du temps ensemble. Donc, on a fait une petite pause d'1 heure, 1 heure et demie dans notre agenda de vacanciers pour faire le podcast. Donc, je vous envoie à tous des beaux rayons de soleil de la côte belge.
Thank you. Then let's get down to the nitty-gritty of our conversation. Yes, first of all, I know that your role today is really super exposed, and even so, you immediately accepted my invitation to talk. I would like to know what made you decide like so rapidly.
Yes, I mean, I was recommended by one of my former manager, Patrice Zagami, who was one of your previous podcasts. And I listened to the podcast and I thought it was super interesting. I actually learned things about him that I didn't know, although he was manager during many years. And I thought it was a very interesting way of getting to know people that were in the biopharma industry from within. You don't ask the classic questions. You don't just ask about the career, the job, but also about the human being behind the name. And I think this is very intriguing and very interesting for people to get to know other people and ask interesting questions. So I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. So thank you for reaching out to me.
Then let's dig a bit into your life. To start from the beginning, I would like to understand which kind of little girl you were, and maybe what age did you start to know what you wanted to do?
Yes, so I'm the eldest of 4, come from Belgium, like I said, a family of medical doctor and nurses. So I kind of knew without knowing that I would end up in healthcare, but I'm an engineer by training. So I studied engineering and I didn't know I would work in pharma. Like many of us, when we end up in the pharma industry, it's almost by accident. We meet somebody that interests us and then we are very intrigued. So it was a bit the same for me. So after my engineering school, I spent 3 years as a consultant as a Boston Consulting Group and did my MBA. And the last year, the Boston Consulting Group, I did projects for pharma industry. I worked on the merger and acquisition of GlaxoSmithKline. I worked for Pfizer on procurement project. I worked for a large academic hospital to do a turnover. I worked for health insurance companies, and there was something intriguing that I really loved and excited me. So I felt healthcare is something that I could really like. And when I did my MBA, I took some electives in healthcare, did projects for pharma industries, and I loved it. So at the end of my MBA, I applied to different pharma companies, and I joined Novartis because of the people I met during the interview. So, and I stayed there for 19 years. So I wouldn't say it was love at first sight when I was a little girl, but it grew on me. And I think through projects and people I met, I just realized this is something I want to do. I can have amazing impact on people. And since then, I have no regrets, and I love this industry.
Mm-hmm. And then, like briefly, how did you build your career? You wanted to achieve something? You want to have a particular job?
So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting question, because when I mentor people, I tend to tell them, what do you want to do long term? And then we go backwards and we build, a set of experience that they need to have to get to that job. But if I have to apply that to myself, I wasn't the best at applying this, because at the very beginning, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I know I love variety. I love challenges. I love changes. I love transformations. So usually after 2 years, I start to get bored in a job. So when I started, very quickly, I went into different roles. I was a sales rep. I was in marketing. I was at the headquarters in Switzerland. I worked in Belgium. I worked in France. And I quickly realized, actually, I like to have a job where I can tackle different things, different topics, a variety of topics. I love to be in teams. I love to make decisions, and I love to have an impact. So very quickly in my mind, I was like, I think maybe general manager could be something, but it will require me to build a set of experience I don't have. And I wanted to be a general manager of a small country so that I could, do things in a hidden way, not too visible, so that if something would not work well, nobody would tell me afterwards, this is a mistake, what the hell did you do? But I was never a general manager of a small country. I ended up being general manager of Germany as my first general manager role. But I think building different set of experience to get there helped me. And since I'm somebody who loves to travel and to live in different countries, very quickly I was sent abroad and actually lived in 7 countries, but worked in 5. And that's part of who I am. And I think that helped me also to design my career, both from a geographic viewpoint, but also from maybe a set of experience in different functions, marketing, sales, strategy, leading teams, small and big, different disease areas, roles in a country, role in a region, global roles. And as you do that, you kind of gather the set of experience you need to be a general manager. And that's what I have been. And I'm very happy to have the opportunity to still be one in the US right now. But it's difficult to know, very, very difficult to know up front what, you have to try different things, look at what you like, what you don't, and then go through that experience yourself and then start to say, okay, given this is what I like, then let's do that. If I don't like, let's not repeat that, because I'm not happy in that role. So that's why I built a career.
Yes. And then you continuously, tried and pushed.
Tried, failed, succeeded. And also the question I keep asking myself, and I actually ask many people that I mentor, is, are you happy in your role? Does it make you happy? Because if a role doesn't make you happy, why would you waste time in your life and years to do it? So when people ask me, what should I do later? I ask them, what did you like doing over the last 5 to 10 years? And why did you hate? Why didn't you like? Where did you feel you were not at your best? And then start make a list. And then we draw, some principle out of that. And that's how some type of roles emerge from that. And at the end, it's good to gather experience, but if it will make you unhappy, let's not do that. So it's a combination both, I would say.
Okay. And then let's jump into this experience. Okay, your first experience as a GM in Germany. Okay, did you like it?
So maybe I can give a little bit of context. So I had been in Novartis for quite a while, and then for private reasons, I had to go to Germany. And and I took multiple step down. So I was a franchisee in France of neuroscience, and then I was in love, and I wanted to to live with my partner. We had been together for a while, and he was in Germany at that time. So I decided to go to Germany, and the only option at Novartis at that time in Munich, where I was living, was to work for Sandoz, the generics arm of Novartis. I didn't know anything about generics. It's a very, very different part of the industry. So I went there. I took a job where I was a single contributor with no teams and helped set up the biosimilars business in Western Europe. And after less than a year, I became franchised for the specialty business in Germany. And within a year, again, the GM of the German business decided to leave to take another role. And they looked for a successor for many months. They couldn't find anyone. And then they say, why not Sandrine? So I was at the right spot at the right time, and I was lucky to be there. But it was my first GM role. There were 3,600 people in the organization. The organization was not doing well, had been missing their own target and declining for many, many years. So I arrived in a situation where I became the leader of colleagues in an organization that was not doing well, and the morale was not very, very strong. And it was super hard because I was working a lot, and I wasn't sleeping much. And after a month in that role, I remember, to the CEO, because the headquarters globally was also located in Munich. And I told him, I don't think I can make it. I think you were too ambitious with me. I'm not sure I'm able to do that. I think it was too big of a jump too fast. And I started crying. So, and then he told me, no, Sandrine, you can do it. I see that. You have to believe in yourself. I see things you haven't seen in you. And how can I help you? So, and I told him, I think you just have to stop putting pressure on me. So I told him, during 3 months, just leave me on my own with my team. We'll put a plan together. Stop calling me every 2 days to know all the numbers, etc. And that's what we did. So basically we did an offsite, and then we put a plan together, and the team came together, and then we actually then actioned it, and it worked. It worked really well. And we took some risks, things like increasing price for generics. Imagine, this is not what you would think about first for generics, but it worked. He left me alone. He left me alone for a few months. And then over time, I gained confidence in myself, and the team, was behind me. The team made a huge difference. They knew me as a human being. They all wanted to help and chime in. And I was a GM of that organization for 3.5 years. And we were growing double digit when I left. So I left in a very, very good state. And this was probably the most difficult job I ever had in my career, but also the most fulfilling one. Where I learned so much, where I contributed so much, and where I realized actually I can do more than what I think I can do. And I'm super grateful for the person who put me in that role, although it was super risky. And I think this is also a lesson. You have to go to your comfort zone, and you have to have people believe in you, that push you. And so I'm always very grateful for that person to have believed in me. So this was a great lesson. But did I love it? Yes, I did, but not upfront. So I would say at the very beginning, when they told me I had this job, I remember it was the day before Christmas. They asked me to come to the office of the CEO. I said, Sandrine, sit down. We are considering you for the GM of Germany. And I looked at them. I said, is it serious? They say, yeah. How do you feel about it? And I said, I'm excited and scared at the same time. Excited because I thought, wow, that's an amazing promotion and opportunity, and scared because I didn't know whether I could do it. And I think when you have this mix of this balance between being scared and worried and then being excited, is the time where you're learning the most, because you really have to go out of your comfort zone. But you have to have a leader that has your back. You cannot do that on your own. And your manager has to be there for you. Very important.
Yes, then you were very, very lucky to find the good person in front of you. And yes, you also when we were preparing this interview, you told me, okay, I was leading the country, managing the country with a to-do list, which was not a good way to do. And I think this is interesting, because how do you learn to how to explain to you how to make it?
Yeah, it's true. The way I was managing things until then was with to-do lists. I had a little list, and I was, scratching. And then my manager, after a week, looked at me. I had a list, I had 10 pieces of paper because there were so many things to do. And he told me, Sandrine, you cannot manage a country with a to-do list. And I looked at him, I said, but how do I do this then? And then, you learn to extract yourself and take some distance to look at what are the big rocks, the big things you really have to focus on. And that's your most important thing as a GM, that this is what you have to do. The rest, you have to rely on your team. And that's why I had to actually learn the story of the big rocks. I didn't tell you when we were preparing, but that's a story I really like, is, and I tell most of the time my teams, is if you take a jar, a glass jar, and you come with big rocks, you fill the big rocks to the jar, and then you ask people, is the jar full? And the people say, yes, it is full. You say, no, it's not. Then you can put little pebbles in between the rocks. You ask, is the jar full? They say, yes, it is full. No, it isn't. You can put sand in there between the little pebbles, and that you can even put water. And then the jar is full. And why am I telling this story? Because in life, you have to start with the big rocks, with the big things. If you start filling a jar with the sand or little pebbles, you'll never be able to put the big rocks in it, because there won't be room anymore. So that's what, in your life, being private, personal, or your own professional life, start with the big rocks. And that's where I realized, okay, let me take a step back. I am the general manager of this organization. So what are my responsibilities? What are the big things that only me can do because of my title and my role? What are the other things that others have to do and I shouldn't be doing? And then this is all then you divide kind of a to-do list, but a bit different, because you have few big rocks, and these are the ones you focus on that are often strategic decisions you need to make, external engagement, with government, etc. So these are things that are your responsibilities. Finding the right people to surround yourself is super critical, because then they have their own big rocks, and everybody at their level has the big rocks, and that's how you build an organization that wins. And that was a big lesson for me, because I couldn't run the to-do list of everybody and just check whether they did their work or not. And that's how you learn to manage something bigger. And then you trust them. Yeah.
Yeah, the image is really strong, I think. And thanks a lot, I think, for this this image, this insight, because I think it could help a lot of people.
And it's the same in private. I'm now with my family on vacation, 2 weeks, 1 week with them here in Belgium, and 1 week I'll do the hike around the Mont Blanc with friends, because this matters to me. And in the US, people usually don't take 2 weeks vacation. 1 week is enough. And for me, it's not enough. I know I need to recharge every 8 to 12 weeks by taking a long weekend, and at least 2 times a year, at least 2 weeks vacation. And I won't change that. Even if I live in the US, I'll just make it happen, because it's important. It's one of my big blocks, recharging with my family and friends. And the team has understood that. Now they do that more. They take also 2 weeks when I take 2 weeks. Yeah. So they are learning. Yeah. So that was a big learning. So when I became GM of Germany, and I to trust myself and to focus on what matters most at my level, and surround myself with the best team I can. People better than I am, actually better what they do than I am. That was the secret sauce.
Thank you. Just last thing, during this experience in Germany, we can see that you downgrade your job when you arrived in Germany, because you were in specialty care, and then you decided to go to Germany. Yeah, it's kind of a hard decision to accept, to decide when you're so young to make something. Yes,
the decision. I mean, no, that's a good point. So yes, I was thinking, what am I doing? So I'm in love, so I need to to follow my heart. This was a big rock for me at that time. And let's go to Germany, leave what we call the innovative pharma, and go to generics. And the generics has a certain image of being, it's all about margin and money, etc. It's kind of true, but I decided to reframe myself and to say, okay, on one hand, it's about biosimilars, which was something completely new in terms of concept. So I was intrigued. And the second is looking at the number of patients you can touch. And at that time, to give you an example, in Germany, 2/3 of the German population, like between 50 and 60 million of people in Germany, were using one of our drug every single year. So it felt such an important responsibility to say, I'm touching the life of 2/3 of the German population by delivering medicine to these people. So if something happens to us, being a supply chain issue or whatever, quality issue, I'm putting the entire German population in danger because of the system of the German healthcare. We have tenders, and you're the only one company wins the tender for generics. So if you have an issue with one drug, then the country doesn't have that drug. So, and that was important. There were chemotherapy drugs, there were lots of different drugs, opioid drug, etc. So I thought it was a very important role to play. But I learned that after going there, it was a way of me reframing my role. But it's true, making the decision to take a job that is at a lower level. I had a salary cut, didn't have a company car anymore, I didn't have a team anymore. Was a hard decision, but I also felt I was going to acquire new skills. It was going to differentiate me from other people, because very few people have done both the innovative side of medicine and the generic sides. You often stay with one of the two. And I just thought, why not? This is another set of skills that I will be able to leverage. And it was the best learning school for me to learn how to manage a P&L, how to manage margin, how to do forecasting and to ensure you don't have supply issues, how to interface with development and with production. I hadn't learned that in the classic pharma industry. So sometimes you need to make choices to take jobs that are lower, either for personal reasons, which was my case, or because simply it's going to teach you something. And this has happened multiple times in my career, where I didn't go up. I went either laterally and sometimes also down. I didn't see that as going down. I saw that as broadening my skill set. Even when I moved to the US 6 years ago, I was the GM in Germany, and then I moved to the US becoming a franchised role, which was seen as a level down. I was not the general manager anymore. But I saw that, okay, I'm going to learn the US healthcare systems, which is something I really wanted to do. And I was going to learn oncology because I moved to the oncology business. So I felt, okay, maybe it's a level down on paper, but it's such an interesting experience that I don't want to miss this. And it was super helpful to get me where I am. So I would say to anybody who is listening, don't look at your career as a straight line up, but more as a set of experience you want to acquire to get you somewhere. And sometimes you might go down and slow down to go faster afterwards. But if you know which type of experience you're gaining from that, there is a case, do it. So why not? And I have done that, I think, 3 times in my career, taking a step down, but to learn new skill sets. So I would encourage everybody to think about careers like this rather than just going up.
Okay. And then maybe you understood a bit at this time your leadership style, how it works.
Yes, I did. Yeah, that's what. So I think, the older you get, and the more experience you get, the more you're learning about yourself, and it's all about self-awareness. And as I was mentioning, I learned not to manage a country with a to-do list. At the same time, I also learned that surrounding myself with the best people is actually the recipe for success. I compare myself when I'm being asked what is my leadership style. I say I'm like the director of an orchestra. So I actually make the music sounds good and guide a team, but I recruit people who are the best at their own music instrument. I cannot play piano. I cannot play the trumpet, but I'm going to recruit the person who is the best piano player, the best person playing the trumpet. And then the overall music will sound great. And I think to be a great leader, you have to have a balance between truly caring for people, yet holding them accountable to high standards. And that's this delicate balance that makes you successful. So caring, why? Because I think you need to win the hearts and the mind of people. If you don't care, people feel it. Or if you care, but in a fake way, they also feel it. So it must be authentic, and you must be caring about and for people. They are human beings who want to connect, who have a life. And you have to get to know them and spend time with them and understand how they tick, what motivates them. Everybody is different. And at the same time, you have to hold them accountable to high standard. This is not a summer camp. I'm not the mother of everybody. So I have to deliver, and I strive for excellence. So how can you balance both? That's why feedback is so important. If you take the time to give feedback to somebody, it's because you want this person to get better at what they do. It's because you care. And if you frame that, it's going to be very different. Because when I was younger, I was afraid of giving feedback because I felt, oh my God, the person will hate me. Or I was only giving positive feedback. Or I was sandwiching on the sandwich method. You do a lot of positive feedback, a little thing to improve, and then a lot of positive feedback. So people didn't even remember the little thing to improve. So I was like, why I was so scared? Actually, if I position it a way that it's because I care about you and for you, I want you to get better. So here I'm taking the time to give you some feedback. is going to change completely the dynamic. And that's how I do this. And even with my manager. So I had a manager who, in the past, not the one I have now, who is very open to feedback and loves it. So the one I had before it was hard for her to give feedback. And sometimes what we were doing is that we were giving each other mutual feedback in a one-on-one. So we were starting by, I give you feedback, you give me feedback. So it was, and then it felt less aggressive, I would say. And then you're learning to develop that. So, and it's all about having this balance between caring and then holding people accountable to high standards. And that's why I think you can be a good leader. People want to follow you, not because you're a machine, but also because you're a human being.
Yeah, and then you explain this. You explain,
yes.
you really tell, okay, I'm telling you because I want the good for you.
Yes, I start like this. I say, I care about you. I care for you. I want you to get better. So this is why I'm telling you this. I don't always do it. Depends on the person in front of me. If I know they will be reactive or not happy or something. This is how I start. And this just frame the discussion differently. Then they're completely open. It's because she means it in a positive way. And I think it just changes something in openness in people. I haven't tried that privately, but I'm sure it could work.
Yes, because I was thinking the same in friendship. We often say,
yes.
Your best friends are the one who really dare to tell you when you're doing that.
It's true. It's true. And they tell you in such a ways because I love you, because I'm your friend, that I'm telling you because nobody will tell you. So it's exactly the same principle. Yeah.
And because I know it won't break the relation.
Yes, exactly. So yeah. And sometimes, when people are not good at what they do, and it's just because they don't like it or they're not happy. Like I mentioned, happiness is so important. And I've had to separate myself from people, and it's never fun. But if you frame it like this and you actually help them to find another role, either within the organization or outside, where you become a reference and you introduce them to people, actually, it makes such a difference. I'm still in contact with people that I had to separate from and that are grateful for me because I help them be at their best and feel comfortable in their own skin by doing something they really love doing. And some even became career coaches, believe it or not, 2 of them. So it's interesting. So yes, why not? Why not? Everybody deserves to have a job they love.
Yeah, and yes, we often heard also that you don't become a leader; it's the people who make you a leader. Is that something that you've experienced too? Or?
I think it's something you learn over time and experience. And I was the older sister of 4 kids. Probably I was a bit of a leader there, and I was practicing, or the scouts the same. But it's because you learn through practice and through working with people and see how they react to your leadership style, and then you develop your own. And everybody has a bit of different style. So I know myself is to be very caring, at the same time having a high level of excellence and requirement, and bring these 2 together. And it's by practicing, and people around you make you who you are. They also give you feedback. And I've learned from them. Still now, today, I'm really not perfect, far from that. So my team is super helpful for me to get better what I do. I started a new role 1.5 years ago, and we work in virology and oncology, and I didn't know anything about virology. So I'm learning so much, and it's also thanks to my team.
Yes, we can jump on the next step of your career. Then you went to the US. Why did you make this decision? Was it easy?
Yes. It's interesting because I was listening to another of your podcasts, Patrice Agamé, who told he missed the US experience and the oncology one. So I was like, okay, I did that. So actually, it was interesting because I felt the US was an important piece of the puzzle that was missing my set of experience. And I was in the generics industry in Germany, and I was like, if I could do the US, it would be wonderful. So I was offered a job in Japan, actually, to be the head of oncology in Japan, which I refused, where people were shocked that I refused. I just felt I wanted to go really to the US, and if I wasn't going at that time, I would probably never go. It would be too late. So
why did you want to go to the US?
Because it's such a different market. So first, you have a lot of set of data. So data that you don't have in the rest of the world. So data about prescription behaviors, about patients, what they do, what they like, etc. You can directly communicate to patients, which you cannot do ex-US. Actually, I mean, you see advertising on TV for patients, so you can do a lot directly with the patient. Innovation goes much faster. When you look in oncology, to take an example, as when a study, a trial is positive, it directly goes into guidelines, the NCCN guidelines, and physicians start using the drug in that indication, even if it hasn't been approved. I mean, just to, by the FDA. So it's just the speed of innovation is super, super fast. And it was very exciting for me. So the speed of innovation and approval processes, the direct to patients opportunities, and then the amount of data and information. And, you know, with artificial intelligence, big data, you can do much more because you have this richness of data. So I wanted to learn from that because I felt this is just something I cannot miss. And the market is just huge. So it's not easy to get there when you've never worked there. So I was blessed to have the opportunity to go there, and Novartis allowed me to do a job there as a BU head for oncology. And I was super excited, and I'm very happy, and I loved it, and I'm still there after 6 years. So I think you're learning so much that you can apply to other countries afterwards. So I think it's a great opportunity if you have it.
Yes. And then you left Novartis after 19 years?
Yes. So yeah, I felt
How was
so,
it?
yeah.
Like you leave home after 19
it felt
years.
home.
Yeah.
It still feels home when I see my colleagues who are still there, who became friends. You know, 19 years, I learned so much, and I'm so grateful for that company. I mean, I was a nobody when I joined, you know, after my MBA and my consulting. They made the leader I am today. I gave also a lot to that company. I just felt this was the time for me to experience something else. I just wanted to try something else before I retire. I'm 47, so I still have time. But, you know, I felt if I don't move now, maybe it will be a bit late. And then, you know, where I am today, Gilead Sciences gave me the opportunity to stay in the US, work on the West Coast, which is very different from the East Coast. So I'm now based in California, and work in other disease areas I never worked in. So I still have oncology that I had before, but also virology. And I think what is very, very exciting is the fact that we work in HIV, in hepatitis, and in COVID, which are diseases that are highly impacted by underserved patient population. When you think about HIV, these are mostly people, you know, with minorities that have been impacted by racism and certain stigma, LGBTQ, African American population, Hispanic populations, or people who inject drugs, for example, for hepatitis C. And I just feel that now is a time to give back to society. Beyond providing a drug and a treatment, can we also help make a change and help these minorities and underserved population to be better cared by and of, and can we do a step in that direction? So that's why I'm very excited to be able to contribute my way to bigger social issues. And I think in the US, there is an opportunity to do so. So it was the right time.
Yes.
I just feel I'm very happy.
Yes, okay. Because it's always hard to, leave a company where you're probably happy. Maybe you wanted here to stay in the US, and then it was the only...
Yes, exactly. I wanted to stay longer in the US. I just felt it was the right time to change. And I'm still in contact with Novartis and with friends there, as I said. So we're not enemies at all. It's just I needed something new, and I just felt this was the right time and the right opportunity for me to move at that time. So you know, you never know. I mean,
yes, a question like many people can have at one time in a career, need to change a company, maybe the company
and you
shouldn't.
You shouldn't run away from something. You should run towards something that excites you. I think that's what I hear so many people, I'm not happy, I will change. I say, no. You should leave when you're excited by something else, not leave because you don't like it anymore. So first if you're not happy in your current role, try to change role, speak with the manager. And then if you really try, then change company. But first, I think is really try to improve the situation. And it shouldn't be a reason why you leave a company. I think you should change company because something else excites you and you want to try something else. And for me, you know, Novartis is big. It was 110,000 people, a large, big pharma. And I knew if I were leaving, it was to do something else. So, and I hesitated. Should I do a small biotech, where many people are jumping? You know, in the US, many people work in small biotechs. one product, often not in the market, so it's more working with development, doing round of financings, etc. Or do I want to try something mid-size? And I said, I think I want mid-size. I think it's the best of both worlds, and that fits me perfectly. You have enough resource to have an impact, I would say, and to be big enough, to have multiple products in development and on the market. But you're small enough to be agile and have some autonomy to make decisions. And so I felt this was the right balance for me. But everybody's different. Some people prefer big pharma, and I loved it. Some people love small biotechs. It's something different, but why not? And I really like the mid-size because it's the best for me, I feel, of being agile, but big enough to have an impact and make a difference.
I've seen on several occasions that you've helped a business to stop a decline, to be stabilized, and to be launched again in a new phase of growth. And I think, yes, in the space of a few months, I think it's kind of impressive. And yes, I definitely would like to ask you the million-dollar question. Is there a recipe? I'm pretty sure
yes, maybe.
Not a recipe you can share, but
turnaround, it's called. Yes. So turning around a situation when you arrive in a business which is not thriving, either there is a product which is declining heavily, or the business is not doing so well and you want it to grow, or it's growing but not fast enough. So it was not the case when I joined Gilead, by the way. The business was doing well. I just helped continue the trajectory and continue to accelerate it. But it's true, I have been put in situations at Novartis where I had to help improve the situation, and a bit of a crisis mode, and I know one of my mentor that was from Novartis told me one day, you have the turnaround queen tattooed on your forefront. So be careful not to only do that and stand for that, because you should also learn something else, which I agreed with. But so how do? I don't think there is really a recipe, but I can explain how I usually do. And there is nothing surprising, but let me explain you in a few words. So when you arrive in a situation, you spend a few months to listen. And it's tough for me because I'm a very action-oriented person and I like to act quickly. But you don't know what you don't know. So you have just to spend some time listening and make your own diagnosis. Is it a question of people? Is it a question of lack of focus? Is it a question of processes? Is it a question that there is not enough pipeline? Or what is positioning? What is the issue? And then you have to decide to focus on a few things. Like I was saying, the big rocks. Not do too much, because if you do too much, you don't achieve anything. So focus on a few things, and on the way, and often these things take time. It can be you need to reorganize, you need to recruit a new team, etc. On the journey to get there, try to have a few quick wins. Quick wins, like not too complicated, something you can speak about that is going to start, a positive atmosphere in the team. Like you say, guys, you can do this. This is doing well. Like I was mentioning in Germany, when I arrived, the team was missing the forecasting and the budget, and then it was not really working. And then we had different actions that we decided to go on. There was an action plan with different things to put in place, but one of them was to increase price of certain drugs. Increasing price you can do quickly. So we decided to do that. And one was, I remember, with fentanyl. So we decided to do that. And actually this worked. We didn't have a volume decrease, and we directly saw an increase of sales. So, I would not say I'm doing price increase all the time. This was the only time I did it in Europe. And it was something awkward, but actually we went much deeper in price cut than we should have, that the market needed. And that's why we reverted it. So that's just an example. So observing, making a diagnostic, deciding to focus on maybe 3 things, 3 to 5 max, and then on the way have a few quick wins that we speak about. And then I mentioned also people is very important. Very quickly decide whether we keep the same team or we need to make changes. People think I'm changing teams all the time. No, I don't. I arrived at Gilead. The team is wonderful. I didn't change the team. But sometimes you have to change 1 or 2 people because they are either fed up, bored, they don't contribute anymore, and you have discussion with them. Discussion like I explained you in the feedback. You tell them, I really care about you, but are you happy in your role today? And sometimes they tell you, actually, no. What do you like to do? And then they tell you a few things. And then you put them in a role where they can excel and contribute better, and then you change. So that's how I do. Nothing rocket science. take a few months to listen, make your diagnostic, focus on a few things, have a few quick wins you can communicate, and then share your plan on a continued basis with the broad organization, with the management, up, down, right, left. And then every time you have done something, speak about it, measure success, and then reinforce what you have done. And then you go to the next one. So that's all it takes. And sometimes, I mean, be courageous and say it might take 2 years to get there. Don't take shortcuts, because some stuff are long to change, and don't underestimate it will take long time, and be fair and transparent with your team to say, okay, this we are going to do quickly, but these two things will take multiple years. So let's start now and will take time. That's what I do. So nothing rocket science. I'm sure you knew about this.
No, I think like the one major point can be also like to really be able to empower your team. Like
empower the team.
Explain.
Oh yeah. And
explain and yes, being let help them to be involved in the process.
Exactly. I don't do a plan myself. We do that together. We sometimes do an offsite where we decide it together. So I they know best. Like I said, it's just igniting, the reflection. Ask some questions. So when I say making the diagnostic, it can be by asking questions. So often I don't know all the details. So I'm asked a few questions, and sometimes it can unlock something. I remember in the US when I came in oncology, there was a drug where we were losing really market share and sales, and it was a topic of channel mix and profitability of the channels. I'm not going to go into the details, but I just asked them 3 questions. One, do you have different channels? Yes. The second question is there a different profitability level? They say yes. And then the third question was, do you allocate your resource accordingly? And they said no. And then they looked at me and say, we should do that. Okay, we're going to change that. So they changed it and it worked. So it's the power of a few questions, and coming from an external organization or a different country or different unit is an advantage, because you can ask questions from scratch without having preconceived ideas, being very naive, and then it unlocks some stuff that people hadn't seen. And that's why it's easier.
It's also part of the experience you get after maybe having seen different countries, different
therapeutic areas, generics, specialty, having worked in consulting. I think you draw patterns, and you can ask questions that help understand and that help unlock sometimes the truth. Have you looked at this? Have you thought about this? And then they look, and then they realize maybe that's this. And so the leader alone cannot solve something. Absolutely not. You have a great team. Take time to ask questions, make the diagnosis, and then have the team build a solution together, and then measure and communicate around it. I think having a story to tell is very powerful, and that's how you sell what you have done, and that people really understand what you have done. So often people do things and don't speak about it, so because we don't have time. But I think then towards the upper management and even the organization, explain, this is what we discovered in the diagnosis. So we put this plan together, we executed, that's the results, and that's it. So let's explain that versus just assume people will understand and know. So that's also part of the success.
Yes, I think it's probably one of your biggest strengths today, to be able to so rapidly understand everything and being able or analyze the context, and being good at like maybe finding a pattern. You're
finding patterns, and it's like I said, I don't do that alone. It's you're surrounding yourself with the teams who know it best, actually. But sometimes it's just by asking a question or connecting dots that they hadn't connected before between 2 observations. Then they have a haha moment and they say, oh, that's it. So that's what the roles of the leader is about, I think.
And then did you establish a method, to connect things, to understand, to add value? Or is there like a particular way you work when you arrive? I don't know. But.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there is a way to connect things. I think you have to be able to focus on the few things that matter. Like I said, what are the essence? Because often there is a lot of noise. I mean, lots of information, lots of observations. So being able to extract the essence. Okay, what is the core of the few things you're observing? And then is there a connection between all of them, or are they independent? That's what I think is the most important, being able to remove the noise from the essential, and then going really to the core of the why. And then if you can get to the core, then it's relatively then easy, or straightforward, and to put a plan together and to focus on it. That's what I've seen the most difficulties is when you have too much information, kills the information. And in the US, it's difficult because, like I say, one of the reasons I wanted to come to the US is because you have lots of data. And sometimes you have too much data and you just don't know where to look. So I think the ability to know where to look and to focus on a few things and draw conclusions from that and connect dots is what is critical. And sometimes it's sitting on a table with a few people, and then start brainstorming. There's this. So these are the 5 things we have observed. Any way they are linked, and then brainstorming. This is why going back to the office, I know with the COVID, many people work from home. We actually work from the office at least 3 days a week. And I think it's just helpful because then we are next to each other and we whiteboard, we draw ideas. And it's not just me alone. It's just once we are clear on what are the big issues or the big focus areas, discuss together if there is a pattern between them and we connect them, or whether we should tackle them differently.
To conclude this first part, I would like to talk about your future, because I think yes, you had a great career, and I think it's not a secret that you've seen by some big leaders, you've seen as a future CEO maybe, and I would like to ask you: is that the next step you would like to take? How do you approach this question? Is it something you're mentally preparing for it, or
thank you for the question. So I'm happy to learn that people see me as a CEO potentially. So I know that's what some people have said. So so I don't want Gilead to worry about me leaving to become a CEO. So I love my job and I love what I'm doing. I just joined a year and a half ago. So do I want to become a CEO? I'm not sure. And what is interesting, when I mentor people, I always ask them, think about what you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years, and then go backwards and think about the set of experiences you need to gain to get there. So, I mean, in a CEO, when I see what they are doing, there is a lot of time which is spent in front of shareholders, with the board, externally. Or if you're in a biotech, finding investments, and is it what gives me the most joy? I'm not sure. I like to be in front of a team, in front of customers, being able to see the impact we have on patients. And I don't have to be a CEO to do that. So as long as I can feel I can continue to learn and make a difference, I think I'll be happy. So we will see where it will bring me, but right now I'm very happy where I am. So maybe yes, but it will depend on the type of tasks at hand in that company at that point in time. If it's all about investment and shareholder, that might not be what I love to do. I can certainly do that as part of a job, but it shouldn't be the majority of the time. If it's about only working with research and development and having nothing in the market and commercialize, this is something I've never done, so I'm not sure I would be the best. But if it's more about a role where you can also have a balance between commercialization, you're really seeing the impact you have on patients, but still playing the role of the CEO towards shareholders and the board, why not? So we'll see what time tells. But it's not something I've written in my head that I absolutely want to do that type of role. We'll see. I still have time, and I love my current role, so I'll certainly continue doing what I do for a while.
It's not an embarrassing question, actually. It's just to understand, maybe how you make your decision, or you make your choices.
That's a good question, and not easy to answer for myself, because I never thought I would be a general manager of a company in the US. I thought the highest I could achieve, if I can, would be a GM maybe in Belgium of a small company. So it's amazing, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm happy in my current role. So if I can contribute more by taking even bigger role, why not? Mm-hmm. But it's not a means to an end where I have a plan and I want absolutely to do that towards something else. No, it's not calculated. But I would love to continue to contribute, and if it's to a bigger role, why not? Why not? And maybe one day come back to Europe.
Why not? Still have many years to.
Yeah, I love the
to
US,
decide
but when I'm in Europe, I'm always a bit nostalgic when I take the plane back to the US because I was born here, so and there is a bit something special here in the air. So yes.
Yes, maybe a question for later. For
Exactly. We'll see. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And I would like to raise some more personal questions.
Yeah.
And the first one maybe would be how do you leave the loneliness of the manager? Because you're quite young and you arrived really rapidly to leading positions, and this feeling of loneliness is really mentioned. And I would like to understand how do you manage it? How do you surround yourself? Confide with others and share.
That's a good question. Yes. So loneliness. So I have said multiple times, I'm alone at the top, but I'm not lonely. So I don't feel, alone, that I have to decide everything by myself, that I cannot speak to anyone. So I really make decision alone without speaking about it with somebody else. So it can be my team, my direct team, the leadership team of the US. It can be HR. It can be my manager that I consider as my sparring partner. And that's what I love about my current manager, that we can really have discussions about, I'm stuck here. I don't know how to deal with that. There are these two options. What do you think? And I think this is very important because you can feel alone, like I said, not lonely, but alone, the top, where your colleagues are basically other general manager of other countries or other regions in the world. And they are not in your shoes. They are far away. They don't face the same situation as the country you're in. So sometimes it's a bit difficult. So of course we speak with each other, but I couldn't do my role if I didn't have anybody I could share my thoughts with and get challenged. So I like people playing devil's advocate with me. And so I think that's important. And I'm somebody very transparent, so I'm not going to keep a secret from me, and I'm going to share actually the information with others so that they can help make the right decisions. So I think it's feasible if you surround yourself, like I said, with the right team around you, and you have a manager that you think can really be open with you and you can trust and have a true sparring partner relationship. I think this is, for me, this was very important. When I made a decision to join another company, very important. You feel you can have that relationship with your manager. Personally, this is how I have managed to do it. And if not, this is becoming hard. Then you must have I have external coaches. I have external mentors with whom I discuss that have helped me along the way to make the right decisions. Because you can feel alone indeed.
Yes, but and then your leadership style helps you to being aligned when you take your decisions and when
exactly. So, like I said, I also have my compass to say I have my moral compass, what I think is right or wrong according to my values, and I truly care for people, so I'm not going to take something that goes against that. But I also excellence and standard and high standards are also important for me, so I'm not going to settle for something which is suboptimal to my level. So that helps also making the right decisions. What I know, you don't compromise on your values and what you stand for. So sometimes you have to go away from something that might look great or be super profitable or something is fantastic, but you just feel there is something wrong in your belly, and it's just because it's not in sync with who you are, and then I go against it. Yeah, I might regret it later, but at least I'm in line with who I am as a leader and what I stand for. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. Interesting, really intimate and personal, and yes, this is the strength also of
and I'm sure each of us has faced situations like this where you have to go right or left, and you think on paper the right looks good, but there is something you cannot really subjective, or you feel there is something in your belly, in your head that's saying no, little voice, then it's not right. So I believe that you must really feel completely in sync with who you are and your value to feel comfortable to making a decision. If there is something telling you it's not that, then don't do it, however sexy it looks. And it's true, by the way, for career changes. So I've been approached for amazing roles, But then sometimes I just felt there is something there. The person I spoke, the word he or she used, or what they didn't say, not sure. Then I decided not to go for it. Although on paper it looked amazing.
Yes,
Because
then
I
you
also,
make your decisions sometimes by heart, by brain.
yeah,
Okay.
gut feeling. Sometimes it's gut feeling. That's what we call gut
Mm.
feeling. I mean, I try to be as data-driven as possible. I'm an engineer, so I remind you that I'm very data-driven. But
Yes.
but sometimes the gut is telling you more than you think, or by heart. Yeah. There is something which is not explainable, not tangible, that is making you go in one direction or the other, and it can be different for every different person. So
Yes.
you're not me, and you might not pay attention to something that will be important for me. So at the end, I think you have to do the decision you will live with, because you're the one that will live it for the rest of your life. And if you feel comfortable with it, then that's the right one. And maybe somebody else will do another one. And if they are comfortable with it, that's the right one for them. So yeah. But when it's for the enterprise or the company you're working with, that's where, of course, then I involve the team, manager, experts, and then we make the decision together. Yeah. And then we all jump together and all hands. But it's a difficult one.
Thank you. Thank you for this explanation, because it's I think in the end it helps everyone to talk, understand ourselves, be aligned with your values, and don't go if you don't feel it.
Yeah, don't go. Something else will come. Things are meant to happen, I believe. So
yes, and
something will come.
How did you get this? All of this was trained by someone, or you learned?
No, I think it's learning by making decisions that were not the right one, and you regret it afterwards, and you're like, I should have listened to my gut feeling at that time. I mean, and then when it happens a few times, you're like, okay, no, I'll do that like this, or. And anyway, I mean, big decisions you have to make at the company level for business, rarely are you allowed anyway to take them on your own. So that's, I think there are also governance and processes that force you to do that. So I think that helps. And then you start to see the value of getting input from others, where you're like, I wouldn't have thought about this. That's a good way to look at this. A new perspective. And you recognize that it's actually helpful to do that. So I think, that's where you feel, okay, I need to involve others. I don't do that on my own. And then a few examples where you failed, or no, didn't fail. I don't like this word. Where you learned, you made a mistake and you learn from that. And then it helps you, to build your muscle of decision making. Some people are afraid to make decisions and keep asking for more analysis, etc. So there is a point where you just have to say, okay, no, I think we have what we need. Let's just sit down, discuss, and decide. Because else an organization can get paralyzed by no decision making, and you can keep analyzing for ages and not decide anything. So you have also to know when is the right time. So I think it's experience and gut feeling and making mistakes and learning from them. That's how you get there.
You are maybe helped by the fact that you're driven by action, and then maybe you want to keep with them. And
yeah, that's a good point. So I'm driven by action, so I tend to make decisions too fast. So that's why I have to slow down sometimes to make sure I have listened to the different voices and perspective in the team. Actually, we are working as leaders at Gilead, but I was doing the same at Novartis. We have to pick for our own development something called the one big thing. What is the one big thing you have to work on as leader to improve your leadership for your team? And you discuss this with your team. And for me, I mean, when you look at the feedback, my 360 feedback, etc., it's my action orientation, going too fast in making decisions and going to action. So I have to slow down to make sure. So they're helping me on this. So you're asking me question. I'm not an expert, but I know that it helps tremendously when you stop, listen to others, and then make a decision together, because I have seen it work really, really well. And when I do that, it's the best. Sometimes you don't have time, but if you have, just do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And to decide in your, or to imagine your career, did you add any models, for example, to you wanted to?
So I mean, in my family, So in my family, nobody works in the pharmaceutical industry, so I didn't have like a role model. I have parents that have always worked extremely hard in the healthcare system. I have a father who is a specialist in MD, and then a mother who is a nurse, and the hard work, the values, and everything come from them. But I have friends, who have made great careers, and then where some went much faster than I have, and they gave me some tips, and I was always amazed by what they could do, etc. So I think it has pushed me. But what has pushed me most is my curiosity and the willingness to learn more and have more impact, transforming people's life. That's really what's driving me, transforming, because I hate the status quo. I like to make a difference, and I like to transform things, and people's life can be your colleague, can be patients, can be the family, can be your team. I just love to have an impact on people, and it can be personally or professionally. And that's what has driven me and brought me to where I am today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sandrine. We are going slowly to finish, to conclude. Two questions before. Do you have any quotes that drive you during difficult times?
I mean, I have actually a motto that I like very much, which is from Nelson Mandela, is you never lose, you either win or learn. So next to my leadership style, which is what I mentioned, this balance between caring and excellence and high standards, I'm also somebody who likes to take risks. And I don't see risk as a negative. I see risk as an opportunity to learn or to win, because you don't really lose. You learn. If it doesn't work, it's an opportunity for you to learn so that you don't make the same mistake. And you can apply that learning to something else. So I think it's just a frame of mind of looking at things from another angle. And of course, I'm super thoughtful. I'm not going to do crazy risks and make crazy risks that don't make sense, weighing the pros and the cons. But I don't see risk as something negative. I see risk as an opportunity to win or to learn. And that's why in your career, I see that too. Moving from one country to another, taking a lower level job, going from the classic innovative pharma to the generics, changing company. I mean, this is risk, but I see that as an opportunity to either learn about myself and new functional and technical skills and therapeutic areas, or I win, and it's even better than the job I was in, and it was the right choice. So I think this is something important for me.
Yes, it's really interesting the way you speak, because I think it's really authentic to explain with such transparency, like to being able to not lose but learn, and to being able to help your team also.
And you asked me, Sandrine, when we prepared. Do you have any failures? I mean, I say, I don't know, because I don't see them as failures. I see them as learnings. So as I was explaining, when I got the role in Germany, after a month, I went to the CEO crying. I said, I cannot do that. I I came back, you should have seen my makeup half gone on my face. I mean, my team sues. So I was crying, and they said, okay. So I explained what happened. And they told me, I think you can do that, and we are here to help you. So I think it was a learning process to me. Actually, I can do that. I just have to ask for help to my team, and to build a plan together versus do it all by myself. This was learning. I mean, you could have seen that as a failure, that I admitted I couldn't do it, and I went to the CEO, and my God, I could have been fired. But it was learning about myself, and ask for help. You're not alone. They are there to help you, and build a plan together. And I've never done that mistake anymore. So every time I see it's hard, I'm like, guys, let's do that together, and let's build a solution together. So So that's how I see things. So,
One last thing, what kind of advice you could give to young people or not so young people, maybe on how to match their personal aspirations, values with the tomorrow's world of pharma?
Yeah, I mean, so I have used multiple times, do what brings you joy and be happy. So I think sometimes we tend to sacrifice a bit or happiness for a role that we know we are not great at, or we don't like, and for a few years, and we just we are grumpy, and so don't waste your time doing that. So just take a step back, and even if it means going back to a smaller role, but where you had really fun, do that, because I think life's too short, and let's just spend the time we have to actually have fun and make a difference. And don't think that what you do doesn't make a difference. It does. Even if you are in pharma, in the back office, etc., you're part of a bigger thing that makes a difference for patients. So I never forget that. So that's what I would have said. I mean, don't stay too long in roles where you feel useless or not useful, or you're not. It's a job indeed, but I think
yes,
it should also be helping you be yourself and be in line with what you stand for and what your values are and what you want to do. So that's a little, I mean, that may be easy to say when you're starting in a career, say, oh my God, do what you like. And I'm looking for an internship and I don't know what I like. So just start somewhere, and see. And if it's hard, look what you can change. So I would say either love it, change it, or leave it. It's also another quote. If you want the second one is, if you don't love, then try to change things. It's because it's too much work. You need more resource. Have a discussion with your manager. It's because you would like to do a project on top. Have a discussion with a colleague if you can help. So try to change things because before you give it away and you leave it. So love it, change it, or leave it. That's also my mantra. What I've tried to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandrine. I would say, thank you for all the courage, the transparency, and the authenticity of your words. Yes, I really think I can blame you, for the having the courage to speak, and to speak out and set an example, because I think in this world we have a lot of things, but we also maybe liking some role models, and I'm sure you will help some people to find themselves and to find them in their approach, whether they can be maybe men or women. It's not it's not a matter of gender, but I think you're a good example.
Thank you so much, Nathalie. Thank you for taking the time to interview me in English on top of that. So I didn't make your life easy, but thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. I hope you gained valuable insights. Want to keep chatting? Drop your comments on LinkedIn. You'll find the link in the episode description. Got ideas or guest suggestions? Message me on LinkedIn. And hey, if you want to support the podcast, give it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That means the world to me. Catch you soon for more exciting episodes. Stay curious, stay inspired, and stay tuned to Pharma Minds.